walk you through Lumina's sales report primarily, but also at the same time try and achieve the idea of showing you how intuitive the tool is. In fact, I had the pleasure to run a workshop with Rajiv, and he built up so much of a climax for the client because he didn't reveal the report till almost halfway, and people didn't even realize it. And that's because we live personality every day, and and the intuitive design allows us to reflect on ourselves just using the framework of the Lumina. So the big question, of course, is like what's brought you to the webinar today. And the real question, I'm going to skip the what's brought you to the webinar because we've done an introduction. Um, but here's a quick question, and a couple of you can just go off mute and respond to this. Do you think personality impacts sales performance? Just a couple of responses is good because I've got another question after that.
Yeah, I think big time. I mean, if you're supposed to answer this, I don't know. Supposed
Yeah,
to use
yeah,
the
answer.
chat? Ah,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Yeah, so I mean, I think big time because I think at the end of the day, it's all about you, your confidence, your personality that shows up, and it also comes up from your, character. So yeah, big time.
absolutely. Yeah, Ajit, go for it.
Yeah, so personality and persona, I think both impact. Persona is how do you build up, and nowadays in the online world, maybe even before the client gets to see you, whether you are a tall or a short or whatever personality that you bring up, there is a lot more that you communicate through your persona. So that does definitely impact. And what brought me here in this webinar today is to see how I could, effectively take Lumina to the clients while doing while specifically for sales leaders.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think one thing we've learned in Lumina is that once we know one tool, learning the other tool is not that hard because of the design. And second thing is we always have somebody to partner with in the community. All right, now all of us are selling, okay? And it'll be good to see in this group what, and we did this in a webinar when Raji was like, we all did a webinar together on sales. And we asked the question, what is your sales mantra? So all of us have a certain philosophy which determines our attitude when we go into sales. Okay. So in the chat box, if you can just give me your one line approach that what indeed is your sales mantra or a philosophy, right? Yeah. I'm just going to read some of them. How aligned are you with the client? I hear about the networking, consultative selling, value selling, consultative selling approach. And failure is not an option. That's Rajiv. Yeah. Okay. Long-term relationships, certainly, and creating value for the others. And what is becoming evident that in spirit we are beginning to see it's like not a one-way process in itself. And hopefully some of that will show up as we talk a little bit more. So, this is something that had come up, and I think some of these literally are contributed, I think, by Rajiv and a couple of other things that we picked up from in our engagement with clients. So, what is the big challenge sales leaders are facing today? And some of these things are, it's every kind of personality shows up to do a sales job. A lot of people tend to cookie cut the sales guy and say it's to be an extroverted, highly sociable, talkative kind of a person. But everything changes based on the kind of product that's being sold and the format in which it's being sold. I mean, I don't think we need a very, very pushy, aggressive, talkative person who's selling Maybachs in a Mercedes showroom. So it all kind of is all over the place. And also, no particular system to assess sales behaviors. I mean, if we can have a standardized sales behavior model, we can compare the people. Finally, based on your personality, you need a different coach approach and mentorship from your own leader. Leaders also default to teaching what they know best and what they do best. So you need to know what is the need of the person who need to be mentored, and then the leader has to affect his approach. And therefore, there is always, and that's a positive view to look at it, that there is untapped potential in every team leader. And if only we had a scientific way to look at it, we'd know what is that potential and what is the way to tap it. So this is kind of like a precursor. Um, we are going to first do a very short, so even the people who are used to Lumina hopefully won't get bored. It's a quick one. I'm going to like switch the slides to Sonam. Sonam's going to take us through just a colorful primer, which is the very basis of all Lumina reports, the personality archetypes. So
Thank you, Ram.
Sonam, I'm handing this over. Yeah, okay, you're good to go.
I hope everybody can see my screen.
Waiting for it.
Showing
There
up.
it
Yep.
comes.
Well, so I'm sure most of you would be familiar with this exercise. Carl Jung coined the term archetypes to state a combined collective understanding of personalities and nomenclature that we are used to. And here we have four colors that denote the four archetypes, namely green, yellow, blue, and red. And just as a brainstorming exercise, I would like to know from you what images come to your mind when you think of the color red. And you can type your answers in the chat box. When you think of the color red, what images do come to mind?
Actually, most people are thinking of the words uh, as well as the pictures. I mean, the red light, the stop light. Yeah, traffic light. I hear that term quite a bit. You know, there's a one word that I hear people describe a photo. They do it consciously with an apology. Blood. A lot of people see blood when they see red. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I see a lot of you, most of you have given us some things that come to the mind when you imagine red, but there are also some descriptors. So you're already ahead of what I was going to ask you. So this is a smart class. And here we have second a few images. I hope this resonates with what you already thought of. Red light, roses, love. And coming to the descriptors that come to your mind, some examples are already there in the chat box, like passion, aggression, angry, fears. Some what are the descriptors that come to mind when you think of the color red?
I think angry, fierce, aggression, passion already came, right? Action orientation.
Boldness, action, orientation. Nice. Great. So as you can see, these colors are quite intuitive, and we have some descriptors here: danger, anger, love, passion. These are words that are associated with red. So you already know this. And similarly, moving on. So if you combine these attributes in a person, how would that person perform or how would they lead? A person with these attributes would lead with achievement and influence and set high goals for themselves. And they would be results oriented, competitive, tenacious, ambitious. But like everything has an upside and flip side. The flip side for such a person could be that they could be sometimes more demanding in nature, could be scary, intimidating, or might lead their team to become very internally competitive. Does this resonate with all of you?
Yes.
Yes.
So the other archetype we have is blue. Similar exercise, similar quiz. What images come to your mind when you think of the color blue? Cool, collected, placid, ocean depth, sky. Yes. Amazing. So these are pretty much what is shown on the screen here. Sky, water, vastness, and Rakesh has an interesting answer, moving next or going forward. Amazing. And some of the descriptors that come to your mind are calm, collected, placid. And if you put together these attributes in a leader, how would they perform? Dependable, yes. Supportive, fluid, yes. Amazing. And if they're challenged, how would they perform under stress? Can be inflexible or try to micromanage processes, because such people are very process oriented and would like to complete things on time, very discipline driven, might resist change. So that's the flip side of having this this strength or this archetype. Moving on to color green. Images that come to your mind when you think of the color green. Greenery, nature, leaf. Amazing. Evolve logo. Oh, great. Broccoli. Yes, broccoli is a valid answer. So mostly nature elements will come to mind when you think of the color green. And so we have nature elements and vegetables like broccoli, lettuce. And what are the descriptors that come to your mind when you think of the color green? Energetic, grounded, yes. Prosperity. Healthy, yes. Amazing. Now, when you combine these traits, what would that leader be like? Always moving ahead, collaborative, compliant. Risk taker, that's a unique answer. Synergetic. The words mostly that the descriptors that are usually associated with the archetype green are caring, nurturing, growing, healthy, life oriented. And so such people will be people oriented, relationship oriented, and such leaders will the key attribute that they will lead with is relationships. And the upside is that they will be skilled at building and maintaining relationships. They will be warm and caring, but on the flip side, they might find it challenging to give critical feedback, or maybe too kind or too flexible, so they might run the risk of being walked over. What images do come to your mind when you think of the color yellow? Amazing. I like Rakesh's answer. He says Rahul. Sticky note is a popular answer. Glow, sun. Yes, so light, warmth, joy, bulb. These are the common images that are associated with the color yellow, and some of the descriptors that are associated are light, hope, spring, creativity. So such leaders would be leading with a broader vision. They'll be more open-minded, will think out of the box, more creative, innovative, but they might also miss opportunities to be in touch with reality or offer practical solutions to the team, and also run the risk of becoming bored with mundane day-to-day tasks. So this is what Lumina is based on, very intuitive color archetypes. And Moving on, I have another quiz for you. This is a popular character. Can you imagine what color he would lead with?
One of his favorite sayings was, I don't know how many planets there are in the solar system, but I know how many bicycle tracks they use in England. Uh,
So blue and yellow are popular answers here. I can see red and green also in the chat box. Yes, but since Sherlock was more of not an innovative thinker, but more of a process-oriented person, he would want to look at all the facts and then come up with the answers. So he would lead with blue. What do you think of this character, James Bond? What color would he lead with? So this is an easy one.
yeah. And clearly, I mean, Nasir put an end to the debate who was the best Bond. That's it.
Red in the evening. Right, so yes, red is the primary archetype here. What about Mother Teresa? Again, a unanimous answer, green. Green, but I think also blue, because otherwise all of her endeavors wouldn't have been executed so nicely, right? So starts off with green, but to execute it, I think she will need a lot of blue. What do you say, Rahul?
I feel that, of course, we all lead with all colors in the sense that we have primary color and then we all have every color, which is what we say that you can't make personality your excuse if you make up your mind to do something. Of course, your big color will help. But I like the way you said that to execute, to give love at an industrial scale, you probably needed blue. Yeah, excellent.
Great. So these are the archetypes of sales leadership also. So based on the sales stage, we have, for creating any kind of sales vision, we need a bit of yellow. And as Rahul said, uh, not just one color, but all the colors are important in the entire sales cycle. So we need the yellow to create the sales vision. We need the red to sell with drive. We need blue to manage the sales process, and we need the green to support the customers after the sales is over, and also to build a pipeline of customers while they are being nurtured. We have a quick guessing game here to know your own selling style. Hypothetically, if a client pushes back on your proposal, how would you typically respond? And you can choose one of the options here. There are four options. Based on your responses, we can estimate what archetype would you lead with. Can you guess which archetype, which color would you lead with? Your selling style is based on your responses. If you chose A, you are more of a red leader. If you chose B, you're more of a green person who would listen carefully and who would understand the needs of the customer first. And if you lead with the color yellow, then you think creatively, you want to think out of the box and give innovative solutions to the client. And if you lead with the color blue, then you check all the facts before getting back to your customer, compare options for them. I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed this exercise.
Yeah. I mean, it just talks about our instinct. And of course, salespeople develop their skills that bypass their instinct over time. That's what we've learned. Although they're probably like, so many reds do the hard work of looking like green for a while. Like, when like
I request Rahul to take
when
over.
Rajiv was saying that, yeah, try to understand what they need. In his heart, he's saying, "We'll do whatever," like he said in his introduction. Yeah. Okay, I'm up. All right.
Rahul, on a lighter note, your statement says, I'll try to understand. I am determined to sell them what I want, but I'll try to understand is my green part a little bit.
That courtesy I'll give them. Huh? All right. Okay, so sorry, I have to move this forward a little bit. Mm, bear with me. Okay. I think we overlapped. There you go. So now we're going to jump into some of the key highlights of the Lumina sales report. Given there's, a couple of people who've like had extensive time with the Lumina report, Rajiv, Rakesh in particular, if there's something that you feel is worth a mention, please also jump in, right? From an observation point of view. Most welcome. It'll only help the participants. So I first want to talk about the whole idea of, and this actually helped me to start re-examining my self-created doubts about my own sales ability, right? Because my first job was in sales and it was an absolute disaster. But after, so you start to carry those monkeys. But I think in Lumina has started to help me to look at it differently. So essentially, Lumina talks about the idea of influence starting with choosing your attitude. Do you know your mindset when you're going in? I mean, I don't think how many people actually stop to think of the mindset. Is going to win-win, collaborate. What are they going in? What's your mindset at that time? So choose your attitude and then spend time empathizing. Now, we don't have to always agree with this, but Stuart's view is that if you're not closing, it's probably because you haven't invested time in empathizing. And then when you empathize, you've really understood the need. So, what is the solution that you can offer if you have one? And then to go ahead and then advocate your case. Usually, I think the third step becomes the second step, too early for a lot of people. And of course, it's all about co-creating a solution. You're not here to get one over because it's not about the one sale, it's about the many sales that will follow. So the Lumina model, the Lumina Spark, for those of you who are familiar with Spark already, it measures 24 personality qualities. And using the same data, Lumina creates 24 sales qualities. In essence, they are sales competencies. I mean, if you look through them, those 24 uh, qualities, you will find that to the degree possible, Lumina always tries to simplify the language because it realizes that if you're going to let people be empowered with their report, the language better be simple. And also, not everybody speaks English the same way. So it is very important that the language, it's kind of neutralized as much as possible. I think Sonam is going to put the definitions in the chat box for people to download because whilst we want to believe it's intuitive, sometimes some words are not as easy as we want them to be. Now, that said, I'll invite you to take a pause. We are all in the business of selling to our clients, right? Whether or not you do it full time. And I want you to see, can you relate to these qualities? Can you see how all of these 24 qualities that are there on the way are contributing to somebody's sales abilities? And is there any particular quality that stands out as in the one that you've been using naturally for yourself? I mean, it's a smaller score over here, but for me, accommodating service and co-creating, are big scores for me personally. I mean, I do invest a lot of in that. I also like to look for collaborative close. Uh, Another very small font in this group is enthusing, the sharing the excitement. So it'll be interesting if you picked up one or two qualities of these 24 that you can personally relate to and put them in the chat box, that you feel is what you're leading with, the feel that many of us have an opening stance also with a couple of them.
Rahul, can I also just connect this with your previous slide, if that's okay with you, just as through an example?
Go for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
please do.
So, for example, what I really relate to is drive to deliver. Yeah. And if you just go to the previous slide, if you can, please. What you will see is, and this is the mother of all slides for me, very frankly, this actually talks about simplifying sales. What attitude do you really walk in with? Really defines at the end of the day whether the client is going to be open to co-creating a winning proposition with you or not. So, for example, drive to deliver actually reflects over here in choose your attitude. Yeah. At the same time, it also really fits in into co-create. So, these 24 qualities that you're actually speaking about, they do actually find its place in these four layers as well. For example, uh, you know, uh, respecting people is one of those 8 qualities that we really speak about. And one of the qualities is collaborative close. Now, if I'm not having that ability to respect people, would a client be really open to creating something with me? So it's beautiful how all these layers intertwine with each other. 24 qualities can actually tell you your behavioral competencies, and your behavioral competencies can actually tell you which of these four do you need to really work on. So I just wanted to give that snapshot.
Actually, that's a very nice one, Rakesh. I can't say that I quite saw it like that, but now that you mentioned it, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Absolutely. So again, the reason we've given you the definitions just to keep them handy. You'll find them. They are just, like I said, they are like little training modules, each one of them, if you wanted to. Now, um, I am hoping to see some responses. Yeah, rigorous execution, reflective understanding, intuitive close, reflective. Yeah, when we take people through their Lumina sales, some of them literally have their move mapped out. That I open up with due diligence, then I go into like discerning assessment, then I enthuse the client, then I'll go for decisive close. Some of them actually have it like a chess map once the words are there. Okay, and what might be useful is to also earmark for yourself if there's a quality that you'd like to build for yourself. It is now that language always helps. I know for a fact that I need to get much, much better at decisive close. Uh, Definitely, that's something I need to work on a lot more. Okay, so hopefully you found that interesting. You begin to see that the 24 words can very quickly engage into a coaching conversation with your client. Ask them questions like, hey, how have your big scores helped you? How have your low qualities coming in the way? What is it that you want to improve upon? And hey, tell me something. I would ask this person, are you surprised by anything? Did you expect to see a bigger score somewhere? Are you surprised that a score is bigger than you thought it was? So those are the kind of coaching conversations you can set up for people. Now, moving forward, here's a little, well, I'll call it a quiz-like exercise. What we've done, we've taken 4 word clouds and we've taken 4 statements. And we want you to just put those ABCD in the right order. So maybe if the first word cloud on the left you think is a C, your first letter would be a C, D, A, B, something like that. So rearrange your 4 alphabets based on what you think is the right order, left to right. Oh, it's already coming in the chat box, is it? Okay, let's see. So yeah, Ajit, what I'd like you to do is put all 4 letters in the right order based on what you think is the top 4, right? Rajiv saying it's BADC, or in other words, it's a bad C. Okay. Or CDAB. Okay. Uh, things like that. It can all be a little bit debatable. Is a B for Rakesh. BADC. Yeah. Again, we're not gonna like hold feet to fire, because always an element of interpretation. But here's what we sort of put it down as. So competitive savvy, talk about energized numbers, uh, that rigorous execution, discerning assessment, looking to set up the systems, uh, by enthusing, proactive networking, all of that yellow, stimulating ideas, etc., could also be leading to some experiential and their drive to deliver, leading to vision for a team, and those relationships with the client, accommodating service, co-creation, emergent research. So again, like I said, not the perfect answer, but I think, yeah, I think Rajiv had it and somebody else also. Couple of people had that BEA in the beginning. Anyhow, the whole idea was for, in a flash of a second, start to begin to get the sense of a person. And in a flash, we can start to read, we can start to imagine what this person is like, what they're going to lead with. So that's the whole purpose of the word cloud, because Lumina always gives data in a sort of a visual format, like the word cloud, and then also the graphical format. If you are running a sales workshop, you could do a lot of interesting things. For example, you could stick people's word clouds on a wall and read a blank sheet below and ask people to give feedback, anonymous, based on what they notice. So in Lumina, for those of you who worked with either Spark or any other Lumina report, you can create a lot of activities just out of the report. And this is one example. Now, then Lumina maps your natural style. So it creates what we call the Lumina Mandala, the sales mandala. It arranges the 24 qualities across. And what it does is it puts the triads together to show your larger sales aspect. So, for example, your voice of reason, drive to deliver, your rigorous execution might become your process orientation at the bottom. And similarly, your proactive networking, enthusing, convincing, your decisive close could all lead to your push sale. So it clusters those qualities to show what is your natural style. And then it maps your top five and bottom five qualities to give you a sense of what you're leading with and what might be a missed opportunity. So, a question for you as we come towards the end of the year and get ready for the next one. And sometimes, like we said, all of us have all qualities. Some come more naturally, and the report gives us our natural high scores and low scores. The question is, through the 2025 term, what was it that you had to use most, depending on where you were in your sales cycle, where were you with your product launch, etc. Maybe you had to adapt to rely more on one approach than another. So, is there anything that you stand out as you reflect over the year that's coming to an end? Which of the 8 aspects you had to dial up? Maybe for some of you, you were establishing a lot of product awareness, and so there was a lot more, process orientation that required you to do that. I don't know. Maybe many of you were in the early stages of launching a product and required that visionary approach to understand the market. So, so think about what you had to use, and also think about, as you're gearing up for next year, which style will you have to dial up? Last year, we've tried to dial up more webinars, more engagement with people, more engagement with our practitioner community. There's been a lot of whole pull sale approach so that people are drawn to the brand, etc. But as we move forward, there's going to have to be a lot more process orientation for us in 2026, for example. Snail, tell me what's happening in your business. What have you had to do and what do you plan to do?
Okay, actually, I raised my hand to ask a question, but nevertheless, I'll answer this one too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear that. And of course, your question is welcome also.
Yeah, sure. So, I think since last year, that was probably end of 2024 onwards, uh, the whole element has been more about I set personal targets,
Mm-hmm.
okay, in terms of revenue numbers. Okay, so the natural focus was about being target focused. I had pegged every month what is the kind of number that I would want to achieve, what would be my quarterly numbers that I want to achieve. I was constantly comparing it with my previous uh, uh, financial year and quarterly data points as well. So that is what it has been, let's say, until December 2025. Uh, but moving forward, the focus is going to shift towards the pull sale more. Okay. And because I'm creating certain specific signature products, I'm going to spend some time on branding and having some stuff created all around it. So the whole idea is to create more awareness, make people come to you rather than me going and knocking the door. So that has been the thought process. My question is, uh, do we also see paradoxes over here? And because again, uh, if I go back to my Spark report, okay, there is a paradox, and I also possibly kind of sense a paradox for myself right now over here because I am highly target focused, but I'm also relationship focused. So that is where my question lies. That okay, do we also see paradoxes in sales reports?
So I've noticed that the Lumina design is to show paradox, right? It always tries to use that because remember, when you create a paradox, you create a spectrum. So on the eight aspect level, definitely, right? And all of us are on a spectrum, mind you. We always have score on. So if you have some pull sale, you'll have some push sale also. And there's no guarantee. You could be largely push sale, some pull sale. You could be equally both, or you could be low on both also. Remember, it's not percentage score. It's not like if 70% here, then 30 there. You could have high, low, whatever scores. So at the aspect level, it's very clear. I personally don't know how well you can say on the quality level. Like, is discerning assessment necessarily opposite of proactive networking? I don't know. But on the mandala level, absolutely. I'll invite Rajiv to comment on the paradoxes, because he uses the mat quite a bit. So,
I think, Rahul, we do see paradoxes, and as Nihil was saying, he finds himself on, say, target focus and relationship focus. So we often get people who would give you examples that that this is how I operate on this side and this is how I operate on that side. And I think, like in Spark, in sales, what you want to drive home the point is, are you using the right thing at the right time?
yes.
So you could be using both, but if you are using not using them at appropriate time, it would be a bigger disaster than just using one wrong. So that's
Yeah.
the first point you want to raise. And the second one is, if you are a sales leader and you have a team who is under you, then this can often lead to the team members sometimes getting contradictory instructions or styles from their leader, and could leave them confused if the leader is not confident enough to explain to them that this switch, why it is important and how it happens to that individual, because the language and demands of the leader can change significantly. Imagine a relationship focused review about a customer versus the target focused review about a customer. Your language would change significantly. So I think those are the kind of learning that I drive whenever you see a paradox. But paradoxes are pretty common. I think every report would at least have one or maybe two paradoxes.
Yeah. So first thing to understand is that, yeah, absolutely. Paradox is a normal phenomenon. Second thing is, You build relationship focus when you're looking for future business, not when you go for collections. So the paradox is not the problem. It's like Raji said, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, that's the disaster. So yeah, okay, lovely. Thanks, Rajiv. Okay, let's keep going. Um, what I'd like you to do, remember, there's a couple of things that you all identified as qualities that you can relate to. Your natural strengths. I mean, even if those words are a little bit complex for you to pick up, as you read each word, you start to see, yeah, maybe I'm pretty good at writing a very powerful, detailed proposal, or maybe I do have a gift for that ability to have a decisive close. I know when the moment is right and then I push after it. Or maybe I'm one of those people who's pretty rigorous about the execution, like, all this putting the stuff out. So I would encourage you to literally, uh, do you have annotate showing up on your bar? If you move the cursor around, do you see annotate? There'll be a little annotate, which is a pencil figure. Can you see that? If you move your cursor around, a little black bar will show up, which says annotate. If you click on annotate, it'll give you a little pen. If you click on that, not the pen, above the pen, there's a text, T. You take the T and then you can write your text. So what I'll invite you to do is put your initial close to the quality that you are saying you are. Right? So I'm going to put down mine near enthusing. Can everybody see enthusing for me? Yeah. So I'll just invite you to go annotate. In annotate, there's a T, just like Nasira's put it on target focused. Yeah, that's Agnello, is it? And Pallavi's gone abstract art. Pallavi, there is that T in that annotate, use that. Don't worry about all these scratch marks and all of that. I'll clean them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was me, yeah, all shaky and wobbly
No,
wobbly.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But all I'm saying is, essential idea is for you to kind of map onto what is your natural style. So, who's doing the yellow line? I'm just trying to see. Is it Nidhi? Yeah. So, Nidhi, I'm assuming in the target focus, which is where you're trying to be, in the annotate section, there is that letter T. T will give you the ability to type your text. And just identify yourself that in target focus, which of those qualities, competitive savvy, purposeful, argumentation, decisive close, which is the one that you feel uh, is talking about your target focus. Now, as you know, when we come under stress, that's when some of these qualities like run out of our control a little bit. So, um, what happens when we are under stress? Because Lumina is built on the Spark framework, we can also see the impact of pressure and how the qualities change. So my enthusing, which used to be, under effective conditions, something that motivated people can now become emotionally overwhelming. So do you see that? I'm going to go to and back and forth. This is the effective quality you picked, and this is what happens under pressure.
Sorry, can you just repeat that once again,
Go back
Rahul?
to
I
the
kind of wanted to
yeah.
process what you
So
just said.
Agnello, in our personality, right? So let's say if you are a logical person, right? You'll be logical and you'll be very effectively logical. But when you're under pressure, your logic may come across as argumentativeness. Similarly, a person who tends to be, let's say, very empathetic can under pressure be emotionally stretched, right? So this is personality trait. Now, because we are using the Lumina Spark in the background to create the 24 sales qualities, we can detect what happens to those effective, powerful qualities under pressure. Here you identified your effective qualities. and that's where it gets undone. So when Rakesh was saying that what makes one of the, amongst other things, he's got his favorite elements, but one of the things that makes it unique is to have the ability to map the stress response. This is the stuff that, you know, gets the thing out on the skid row. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. You are beginning to see. And by the way, it's you're not able to see it, right? The guy who's enthusing, overwhelming the other person, he doesn't know that he's overwhelming the person. This is the reputational impact on the person, different from the intended identity of the individual, right? The actor doesn't know what he's doing. It's only the audience who starts to experience this. So there's a very powerful, powerful information you can provide to your sales leaders and clients, that in terms of what's going on. Okay. So hopefully you enjoyed that, right? For those of you who are seeing overextensions for the first time. And for those of you, of course, you use Lumina, you've seen it, that being mapped in all the other reports as well. Right? Okay. I have to clean this up. Give me a second. Okay. There you go. I'm glad I managed that. Okay. Let's look at. Okay. So what we've done over here is that we've lined up the 6 stages of sales cycle, right? The first and the last are set. You start your sales cycle by researching, acquiring market knowledge, and your 6 stages you do support and develop accounts. In between, the 4 can be rearranged. And again, you want to line them up in the right order. Sonam, am I saying the right thing?
Yep. The 4
in between
stages
the
in
red color
between.
ones? Oh, yeah.
Those are jumbled up.
So you might just BCAD, DCAB, whatever you think is the right way. So if you were to say, if I had 6 stages in my sales cycle, I'll open up with research, acquire market knowledge. What might be my next step? What might be my next step until I get to the stage where I'm supporting and developing accounts? Ignelo, you've repeated C in your.
Yeah, I just corrected that. I saw that.
Okay. All right, cool. Good. I mean, for me, what's important is that this is hopefully intuitively flowing for you. And the intent is to show report, no report. You can start to use these frameworks to engage your clients. Okay. So have I got that right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, you might think, what's wrong with the formatting? Well, we did that for good luck. So, all right. So now you
Please
can see
cover
the logic. You can see the logical flow that you basically need to research, acquire market knowledge, and then you have to start prospecting. Because once you've acquired market knowledge, you know what your call plan is, who are the people that you want to reach out, and then you want to prospect and engage with your client, kind of then understand their needs and say, do you qualify service or not? Only then, now with this qualified client list, you're going to recommend your solution, right? Now you screen them out. Once you've recommended solution, which means you're advocating your product, because you use the understanding needs. Like, you know what Rajiv picked up, Rakesh picked up on earlier, that you empathize, you understand the need, and then you advocate your product, and then you get into getting commitment. So that Lumina influence triangle starts to like show up here as well. So in Lumina report, what you get is a fairly detailed 6 stages of the sales cycle. No different from the words we used, and each of those stickies is indicating what's the outcome at the end of the sales cycle. And the 24 qualities that you first saw as a word cloud, and then you saw them neatly arranged outside your mandala, are now paired up over here for each of the stages. You can see on the right. You can all access a sample report on demand, so not to worry too much about trying to remember that. But at random, if you were to look down those 6 stages on the right side, you can quite easily see the effective and the overextended qualities, that can happen. And in Lumina, once again, your scores show up across the 6 stages. On the left is your effective qualities showing up. On the right are your ineffective overextended qualities. You can start to see how that's making sense. And yes, in terms of design perspective, Lumina did consciously pick up one representation of each of the qualities, each of the 4 archetypes at each of the 6 stages. So it's designed like that. I'm going to pause over here. Hopefully that's intuitively making sense. So Agnello, Nasira, you guys are new to this tool. So, so hopefully intuitively this is landing snail. Is it speaking to you?
Yeah, very well.
All right.
Getting mapped already.
Yeah. So, and in fact, one way to use it for yourself is to say, okay, at what stage am my sales efforts getting stuck? And once you've identified, for some of you, it may be like maybe recommending solutions is a challenge. For the others, maybe getting commitment is a challenge. Once you've got that, you want to dig into the 4 qualities in that stage to say, you know what, I need to work on that quality to dial up my thing. Yeah. So going into 2026, which is the stage that I'm going to take on as a focus area and within which quality I can work on. All right. I'm going to just show you the next section. So Lumina sales, as far as I'm concerned, is not just the data, but also the analysis and also the solution. Everything all in one report. Literally, the report is the workshop, as they say. You walk into a workshop, you got the report, you got your mat, you got your cards. That's it. Pretty much whiteboard and go for it. Because once you've identified or helped your participants or your coaching client identify their selling style challenge, the stage where they're stuck at, narrowed them down to the qualities they want to work on, whether it's overextensions or low score missed opportunities. Then from then on, from page 15 all the way to page 39 in the Lumina sales, it's all about solutioning, right? So this is what the pages look like. How do you improve your natural style? Where are some of the gaps that you can come? What are some of the shortcomings that you can get over? Once you've done that, once you've helped them to identify some areas, the tips, now you want to move to the next stage, which is you can get into your coaching solutions. For those of you coaches, you might in fact use this on yourself right now. Now that you've identified 2026, what you want to work on, what is your one goal? Your one goal might be to get more commitment. For that, what do you require to do? But what's happening right now? So using the growth model, what are the facts? Where are you falling short right now? What's happening right now? Clients love you but don't buy from you. I mean, what's your situation? And then using the yellow creative options, what are some of the things that you haven't tried? What are some of the assumptions on the way? Or what's in the way? What is some way to do approach it differently? And then use the red will, the drive. What will you do? What is the first step that you can take? How committed are you feeling to take that step? And finally, using the green, which is grayed out over here, is who and what can support you? What do you need? A networking partner, somebody you can give a in, somebody who's got experience, somebody who's done something like this. Maybe there's some add-on gimmicks, etc. So then you take them into coaching themselves. I'm going to give you a quick glimpse of team application. I'm mindful of the time, so let me do this quickly. Here's a real team score, which we mapped. So the green box is their top 5 score. Each of those columns is an individual in the team. Okay? Does that make sense? Each of those columns is a team. Each of the rows is representing the 24 qualities. split over here by the style, like that round mandala. What are the 8 aspects? 3 qualities each, and this is the scorecard. Red means bottom five. That means that individual scored bottom five, and immediately in one look you can see what's going on with this team. Snail, you're nodding along, so I think you like it. What is it that you're observing straight away? And Nasira, I'll come to you after that.
Yeah,
So,
so it automatically showcases where is the team gravitating towards, what kind of sales leadership has led this team probably be in a particular way. It also showcases good amount of opportunities that this team in the form of behaviors that is not focusing on, which will be reflective of in their entire sales funnel, or let's say the sales stages.
that's fine. But if you were to like give, so Nasira, comment on what do you think this team is doing well? Where are they falling short?
Um, I think there are lots of blind spots that are really coming to light. Mm,
See if you
I
look at
think
where the greens
focus,
are. Yeah, focus on the greens.
yeah,
What do you see? Where is the greens concentrated?
I think it's on the target focused
Yeah, target.
and pushing the sales
Yeah.
and process driven
So
oriented.
do you see they are arranged also by correlation? So what it means is they are sitting next to each other, right? So push, target, process are also closer to each other in their nature. And so therefore, what is the client experiencing? A lot of push, target, and process, right? Snehal, do you have your hand up?
Yeah. Yeah, so there was
Because
one more. So the observation was about the Reds, actually.
yeah, the low scores. Yeah,
Yeah,
comment on that.
right. So customer orientation is significantly red, and automatic along with that, a detailed approach. So maybe the sales team over here is not empathizing in understanding what the client actually needs and wants, is probably only pushing what they want to sell to the client. And as a consequence of not finding out what the client wants, uh, the detailed approach is also missing.
Absolutely. So whether or not they straight away LinkedIn as a consequence, we don't know that. But definitely the scores are showing what Nasira picked on, that push target process. That's what they experience, but they don't get the customer orientation. And when they receive the material, this detailed approach is missing. Nasira, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, what I also see is that this is so aggressively target driven. There's so much of pressure on the team that their focus is only on getting the numbers more than really understanding what the problems are and the other aspects.
Good. I'm glad you used the word the pressure because let's go to the next slide where we see overextensions, right? Overextensions are behaviors that are morphing unproductively. And let's see where the focus is. And in overextensions, the reds are the overextensions. So where do you think the concentration is? Again, push, target, and process. So not only are the customers experiencing that heavy traffic, but they're also now seeing the horrible side of that traffic. So this puts long-term relationship quite at the risk, correct? What do we need to coach this team on? What do they need to build up? Where do they need to spend the time? Now we have the data, right? Rakesh, what is the couple of tips that you would give to the team leader?
Firstly, what I would say is one should approach this slide in a very unbiased, non-judgmental way. That would be my first thing, simply because um, now we do not know, for example, whether these people are into transactional selling or long-term selling. So, for example, there are certain organizations which have a separate research group. So there, and they only sell boxes, for example. So over there, emergent research may not have any, they may not need one. So my only humble request to all of us would be, let's approach such stats in a very unbiased, non-judgmental way, simply because if we get that one step wrong, it's going to be a big push from the opposite side as well. So I would rather ask questions, rather than give an opinion. So, for example, how important is knowing your customer for your business? That's emergent research. Let the answers come from them. And that's the way to, I would ask a sales leader, for example, gathering data, for example, it's all red. Why is client data not so important for you? If I want to just provoke them, I would still ask a question to provoke them, kind of a thing. So,
yeah. So I think the context, what Rakesh is saying is true, because the guy who's got red in gathering data will be red no matter what job he does. But in a job where his job doesn't require to gather data, it won't matter that much. Correct? So the context of the competency, like, we don't need everybody to be extroverted to be successful. There are jobs that, in fact, don't want extroversion. Similarly, qualities are context driven. But it is true that if the scores are showing up like that, broadly speaking, you're picking up the picture, what kind of a drive this team is bringing in. The other thing is, supporting what Rakesh said, this is personality data. We've got to corroborate this with performance data, because after all, people are capable of bypassing their personality limitations if they have enough motivation and determination. So always, I personally like to see the human as bigger than any data. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And this creates a very, very stimulating discussion. Now, once you got the report, here's what can start to happen. What can work for you when you're knowing your personality can lead to? I'm not going to read the slide, but it does create a lot of individualized intervention. You can now address each person as individual as who they are rather than cookie cutter them. Also, you can start to pick up on the team dynamic, what's going on. So individual selling style, individuals' performance at different stages, intra-team dynamic can help you to tailor your coaching very, very effectively. Okay, we are really running over time, so I'm going to move quickly. I'm going to show you a couple of pitch decks. After all, what's the point if I didn't show you a couple of pitch slides and excite you? So there are a lot of uses for Lumina. I mean, like sales coaching, sales training, teamwork, of course, is primary. But yeah, you can also do a lot of talent mapping, and in some specialized cases, a sales assessment center can also work. And I personally not experienced it, but I've heard of it, that sales leader report in conjunction with a select or a spark could be used for critical hire at a sales leadership. I've heard of it. I've not done it myself. I mean, if I'm looking at somebody as a national sales leader or whatever, I'd probably recommend a leader report. However, depending on the organization's need, they could use sales. Okay. So for those of you who've not experienced the sales, if you wanted to, this is an outright salute pitch, whatever slide, but we do want people to get excited and try and experience their own report. So if you're not involved with Lumina and if you wanted to, you can absolutely send us a DM and we'll take care of this. Okay. I don't want to hold you people any longer and stay between you and the dinner. But let me just stop share and get out of it. Any questions? We've got Rakesh and Rajiv also on the board, so I would say make the most of it. Hopefully, give me a thumbs up if you found the report framework intuitive, easy to work with. Did it make sense? Yeah, I'm glad, Ignaro. Right? Good. Excellent. Excellent.
So can I give a comment, closing comment from my side?
Yeah, Rakesh, please jump in.
Yeah, I think what's important for every sales maker is that no two clients are the same. Every client is unique. You're blessed with 24 qualities. This report is going to tell you what your true strengths are. At the same time, it also tells you what you really need to work on. Now, the question would be, why do I need to really work on certain qualities? Because if you do work on those qualities, it's going to help you attract new type of clients. Because as I said, no two clients are the same. So the more qualities you develop throughout your lifetime, the more different kinds of clients you would be able to attract, and your pipeline will only grow from there. So that's my closing comment.
Rakesh, have you ever had a conversation with anybody, if you don't mind sharing, where you've used both Spark and Sales together.
Oh, yes, I have. And I,
As in, how does that work?
oh, it's so deep, and that's exactly what I was saying. Basically, you can connect your 24 qualities. So let me just try and give a snapshot of that. The 24 sales qualities uh, do integrate or connect with the 24 Spark qualities as well, or the underlying qualities. When you integrate Spark with sales as a report, what you can actually land up doing is identify what is your natural sales style, what is your adaptive sales style, and what is your sales style under stress. That's something if you really. So, for example, my report may show a red and a yellow, for example. Okay. But my natural style may actually be a red and a blue. And that's very surprising. So my natural sales ability may be one, but my organization culture can make me someone else. So that's something which can really emerge as well if you really integrate sales report along with Spark. Uh, if you go one step further, if you're able to focus on the 8 great competencies, Rahul, it can actually tell you, for example, hey, do you respect people? For example, can you relate with people? Just some of the examples for example, if you respect people, you will be able to get people on your side. So the two reports are so powerful. If people buy that together, you can do much more as a person.
So I
And
think that kind of indulgence you're probably only going to get if you're doing like a deep coaching with a serious person.
oh yes,
Or unless you're on a leadership journey, right, with sales leaders, because then you'll
oh,
have the indulgence. Otherwise, affordability becomes a question. But I
absolutely,
can see the power of the two reports absolutely. And I haven't
absolutely.
done the two reports together, but I know that you played with that.
So
So
Spark
good.
needs to be a more of a reward, in my view. So I always say this to my clients: assessment has to be a reward, not a tick on the box. If you really believe this person is valuable to you, then help him or her groom with the
Makes
help of
sense.
this. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So with that, by all means, you have our number, you have our contacts. Please reach out to us for the queries. By the way, for a couple of you are on the qualification track, and we normally have this combination where you can combine, getting certified on two tools to, get financial benefit. And if you know that you're already going to do that, right? So if you know that, okay, long term, I want to get certified in leader, sales, or whatever, along with the Spark, then there is another price framework for that. But our recommendation always is, if you're in the field of coaching training, start with the Spark. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Officially, I'm going to close this out. Thank you so much. Rajiv, I think, clocked out, but Rakesh, thank you for all your supportive input. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the
Welcome.
questions. And Sonam, just any last thing that you have to say, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you everyone for joining. And there was a question in the chat box, although Amarnath has left now. But Rahul, do you want to take it up so that it's there in the recording?
What's that?
He wanted to know if the report can help identify early adopters, laggards, and other buyer types.
Buyer types.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't really have an answer
The
for that.
report can, yeah.
But personality wise, yeah, I'm guessing you could. The people who are more visionary and all that will be the early adopters. The laggards will be on the more discerning type, because the four archetypes will give the style, right? The blue, yellow, green, yellow will sort of determine who moves when. The blues will come in quite late because they want to play safe. Yellows will queue up outside soon as the new product is announced.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope this was insightful for all of you. And like Rahul said, for any queries or to claim your personalized Lumina sales report offer, please connect with us. My email is there in the chat box. I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you so much, Sonam.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see
Thanks
you
a lot.
again, man.
Very
It was nice.
insightful.
Bye bye.